It's knowing all the sentences or statements that are true, that they are true, and knowing all the statements that are false, that they are false. So how do you know a true sentence? Well, Aristotle gives us the what we now call the traditional square of opposition. I'll use Stanford. So every statement or sentence that is either true or false, can be true or false, has to be one of these four statements, types. Right? Has to be a statement of the type that all of the members of this category, or set, we might say today, right, are members of this set. For example, all horses are animals. Yes? True statement. Everyone agrees? Right? You have to make sure, though, that what we're talking about are horses, real horses. Aristotle knows that you've got other possibilities here when you say horses, because you've got this color. Should I use green? You have, this is Aristotle, right? You have the word horse. The word horse isn't a horse. Obvious, right? You also have horse. Actually, that's just a picture of a horse. It's not a real horse. If you go to Palmer or some other places locally, you can actually see real horses. You know, creatures that, you know, right? All that stuff. So beware that there are other meanings behind a word, and you have to be specific. I'm not talking about the word horse. I'm talking about real horses. And real horses, every one of them is an animal by definition. Right? Therefore, that's a true statement. And by the way, this is a universal affirmative, because I'm talking about all the members of the set of horses are included in the predicate set. That's why we have subject and predicate here, right? So we have the predicate set, which are animals. It's a bigger set, right? Well, if I ask you, are all animals horses, the answer is no, right? That would be false. Right? I won't have to explain that. You all understand it, right? So the universal affirmative, the title for these kinds of statements are A statements. And that comes from affirmo, which is Latin, I affirm. So it's an affirmative statement. This set is included in this set. Now notice the universal negative, no S is P, right? No members of the subject set are members of the predicate set. Perfect example I like to use is no dogs or cats. Yes, that's true. True statement, no dogs or cats. Neat thing about that is you can also say no cats or dogs, and that's true, right? They're mutually exclusive sets, so that's the universal negative. And so that's kind of it's another type of statement that you can make that is true or false. You know, if I say, all politicians are wonderful people, false, right? I might say, some politicians are wonderful people. Maybe, if you like, Mary Peltola, a wonderful person. By the way, did you hear her husband died today in a plane crash?
know who. Okay, I don't think we needed to know that information. She's our representative.
Here, we'll ask you. At this point, you can excuse yourself and say you're from Texas. Or someplace else. But that's
Look, I was more asking like, okay, did you need to know that her husband died in a plane crash?
I didn't really need to know that either, but I found out it this morning when my daughter said, "Dad, Larry Pope told us." But the example I'm using here is an I statement, which is a particular affirmative. Because when I say some, I'm talking about one or more, but not all of them. Maybe all of them are. But at least if I'm talking about a particular person, that person is a wonderful person. Right. I'm here in this particular affirmative. So that's also an affirmative statement. Notice it's on the square, it's down here. It says some S is P. So some particular member of this set. And we actually are talking about an interesting set. When we talk about an individual, that's the set of all of the individuals that are that person, right? So that's, especially when we're talking about a proper noun, though, we might actually be saying all of the members of the set. So it might be an A statement. And then we have the particular negative, which is some politicians are not wonderful people. Hitler was a politician. At least among most people that I know, they would consider Hitler a wonderful person. Eva Braun did, obviously. Decided to marry him. And for your honeymoon, here, take this poison. And it will be burned with gasoline, poured gasoline on us, upstairs. That'll be our honeymoon. Sorry, if you've ever visited Berlin and you could see the spot where that happened, because the bunker was right, below, and they just brought him up, from the bunker. He didn't have a Braun. Destroyed it on the spot so that no one would know that they were there, which is why so many people think they snuck away to South America or other places. But so these are the four types of statements. You think, wait a minute, I know a lot of statements that are definitely true, that are not of this shape, right? Of this form. Remember, we're getting this from Aristotle, so this is really old stuff. Everyone in this room is either male or female. Oh, man, actually today I can't say that. I'll leave that off. Let's try a different statement. Somebody give me a statement that, okay, Paul. Give me a
you
statement.
want just like category 2, or is it okay to?
Well, what I'm looking for is someone to give me actually a compound statement that's true. You are either here or you're not. That's true.
Everybody here is a student.
Everybody here is a student. That's an A statement. That's a universal affirmative. No problem. And that. Well, I think that is universal. Even though I'm here, and I'm strictly speaking, having a wife that gets paid for my being here instead of me paying to be here. I'm still a student. I'll never lose that capacity to want to learn. Because I like Aristotle and I agree with him. All men want to know, and that's not we're done.
Every student attending here is alive.
But what I wanted to try to do, yes, I think they're all alive. That sounds like a hypothesis, actually. Is to put it in a situation where I've got either A or not A. And in this case, A is a whole statement. And so what I've got is a compound statement that will have to be true even though I don't know about A in any particular case, but I know that it has to be one or the other. But notice that what I've done in this point is I've got a compound statement that includes two statements of this type. And that's typically what we could do. We could add lots of statements like it's cloudy and raining today. Is that true? Here. Yes, very good point. Might not even be today in other places, right? In fact, we're usually the last ones to get today, you know. That's kind of fun, right? You know, you go on the internet, you call a friend who's in Timbuktu, and they're not in the same day that we're in, you know, because it's some other time and place, etc. I remember being on a Coast Guard cutter that went across the international date line several times in one day, and I was so confused because I'm keeping a log, and I'm like, what day is it? Because it depended on which side of the line you were in. You know, we were going in and out of tomorrow. What a headache, right? But so, what are categories in the first place? Aristotle is going to give us the explanation that everything we know is based on language. So we're talking about knowing the truth of a statement or a set of statements. And the statements have grammatical parts. So you have the subjects, you have the predicates, you have the verb to be, which is right here, and this is very important. Verb to be, right? So I'm referring this set to this set. By the way, it brings up an interesting problem, and that is languages that don't have the verb to be. And an example of this is Chinese. Well, I ask people that speak Chinese, does Chinese have the verb to be? And their answer is usually no. And can you say all horses are animals in Chinese? And the thing is, you get pictographs for horses, you get pictographs for animals. You can have them either way. But does that mean that this set is in this set, and that this set is in this set, or how does it work? I'm not sure that it can be clear. And by the way, we had a Chinese professor from Beijing here many years ago, gave a lecture that I attended, and argued that you cannot do Aristotelian logic in Chinese unless you've learned English or some other European language where you've got the verb to be. And in Chinese, then you're not thinking in Chinese. What you're doing is translating into the European language that enables you to do Aristotelian logic. The interesting dilemma for that is, does that mean that in Chinese you can have true or false sentences? And that's a problem, because according to this theory, in order for it to be a true or false sentence, you have to be able to be relating these two sets of things. That doesn't seem like a linguistic possibility in some Asian languages. By the way, some Asian languages includes many native Alaskan languages. Yes? Because they have an alphabet, but boy, if you talk to translators who are like trying to write down the stories of their elders and so on, the first thing they have to do is add punctuation. There's usually not punctuation in the native language. In other words, they don't have a clear beginning and end sentence. Does that sound right to anyone? Pardon?
That sounds lovely to not have grammar rules. Will we still have grammar rules?
Well, you would still have grammar rules. You just don't have the same kinds of grammar that you would get from a. I've had students from Samoa. I think that language must be similar. Pacific Islander languages, probably Asian root, right? and lots of interesting difficulties there. And in logic class, I had one student who had been speaking English for 15 years, but could not see the difference between all horses are animals and all animals are horses. Couldn't see the difference. I think what he was doing was still translating into his native language